I don't know if you're aware of this as well, but on Twitter at least, you kind of consider like a sort of a fashion icon.
I'm glad that people kind of take notice to it. So yeah, I guess I'm on tennis fashion Twitter. I don't know.
Coco Gauff just dropped a look that nobody saw coming, and the tennis world can't stop talking about it. The defending champion showed up with a transformation that's got everyone doing double takes. This isn't your typical pre-tournament makeover. This is something completely different. Before we get into what she actually did, let's talk about why this matters more than you'd think. Have you ever changed your look before a big event and felt like a completely new person? Drop a comment below, because Gauff's transformation might just inspire your own makeover. So here's what actually happened. Coco Gauff, the girl who literally won the Australian Open last year and became America's tennis sweetheart, decided to shake things up in the most unexpected way possible. She posted on her Instagram story with blonde highlights. Yes, you read that right. And captioned it, "First time trying this color, I'm obsessed." Now, before you roll your eyes and think this is just another athlete playing with hair dye, let's talk about the timing here. The Australian Open 2026 is right around the corner, and Gauff is coming in as the defending champion. That's pressure most people can't even comprehend. But instead of hiding away and stressing about her title defense, she's out here experimenting with her look like she's got absolutely nothing to lose. The internet, predictably, lost its collective mind. Tennis Twitter exploded with reactions ranging from, "She looks incredible," to, "Is this the new Coco era?" Some fans even started comparing her transformation to other athletes who've changed their appearance before major tournaments. Because apparently we live in a world where hair color is now considered a strategic move in professional sports. But here's where it gets interesting. Gauff has always been someone who does things her own way. Remember when she designed her Australian Open outfit last year? She literally told reporters she took inspiration from Marvel superheroes because female characters have cool cutouts on their costumes. The girl turned a tennis outfit into a bodysuit that was apparently such a struggle to get into that she joked about bladder control being necessary. Her exact words were, "You have to sacrifice for fashion." That's commitment right there. Not forget the cargo skirt situation. Gauff wanted to wear cargo pants on court because that's her style, but obviously that's not happening in professional tennis. So what did she do? Made a cargo skirt instead. Because when life gives you dress code restrictions, you just get creative. That's been Coco's entire approach to her career. Take what you're given and make it work for you, even if it means pulling a bodysuit over your head before every match. Now she's adding blonde highlights to the mix, and people are acting like this is some kind of revolutionary statement. Which, in a way, it kind of is. Tennis has always been this sport where players are expected to look a certain way, act a certain way, and definitely not rock major hair transformations right before defending a Grand Slam title. But Gauff's generation doesn't really care about those unwritten rules anymore. The timing is what makes this whole thing fascinating, though. Most athletes in her position would be going into full monk mode right now. Early nights, strict routines, absolutely no distractions. But here's Gauff, posting about her new hair color like she's just another 20-year-old getting ready for a fun trip rather than the defending champion of one of tennis's biggest tournaments. Either she's supremely confident or she's figured out something that the rest of us haven't. Maybe the pressure is less suffocating when you're having fun with it. Let's be real about what defending a Grand Slam title actually means. It's not just about playing good tennis. It's about handling expectations from everyone who suddenly thinks they know exactly how your career should go. It's about dealing with every opponent who wants to be the one who took down the champion. It's about press conferences where every question is designed to make you admit you're feeling the pressure. And somehow Gauff is navigating all of that while also finding time to experiment with her appearance. The reactions from fans have been pretty telling too. Some people are fully supportive, saying she looks amazing and should do whatever makes her feel confident. Others are weirdly concerned, like changing your hair color is somehow going to affect your backhand. There's always that group of fans who think athletes should only focus on their sport and nothing else. as if being interested in fashion or beauty somehow means you're not serious about winning. Those people clearly haven't been paying attention to Gauff's career so far, because here's the thing about Coco Gauff. She's been breaking expectations since she was a teenager. She beat Venus Williams at Wimbledon when she was 15 years old. 15. Most people at that age are worried about passing their driving test, and she was taking down one of the greatest players of all time on center court. Then she went on to win the US Open at 19, becoming the youngest American to win that title since Serena Williams. And now she's got an Australian Open title too, which she won with that Marvel-inspired bodysuit that required advanced planning for bathroom breaks. So maybe, just maybe, Gauff knows what she's doing when it comes to managing pressure and performing when it counts. Maybe the blonde highlights aren't a distraction. They're part of how she stays loose and keeps things fun in a sport that can get way too serious, way too fast. Tennis players spend so much time in their own heads, analyzing every stroke and stressing about rankings and points. Sometimes you need to do something completely unrelated to tennis, just to remind yourself that you're a human being, not a tennis robot. The contrast between Gauff's approach and what we typically see from defending champions is pretty stark. Usually, players come back to defend their title talking about how focused they are, how they're taking it one match at a time, how they're not thinking about the pressure. It's all very rehearsed and safe. Gauff shows up with new hair and posts about being obsessed with it. That's either incredibly smart or incredibly bold. And knowing her track record, it's probably both. What's also interesting is how this fits into the larger conversation about athletes and self-expression. We've seen NBA players become fashion icons, soccer players launch clothing lines, and Formula One drivers collaborate with luxury brands. Tennis has been slower to embrace that side of athlete culture, probably because the sport has such a long history of being conservative and traditional. But players like Gauff are changing that, showing that you can care about how you look and still be a fierce competitor on court. Her outfit choices have always been part of her identity as a player. That cargo skirt wasn't just about fashion. It was about bringing her personal style into a sport that doesn't always leave much room for individuality. The Marvel-inspired bodysuit wasn't just about looking cool. It was about expressing her interest and personality through what she wore on court. And now, these blonde highlights aren't just about trying a new look. They're about showing up to defend her title as the most authentic version of herself, even if that version is a little different than what people expected. The question everyone's really asking is whether this new look is connected to her mindset heading into the tournament. Some sports psychologists would probably say that making a physical change can help you feel like you're entering a new chapter or adopting a different mentality. Maybe the blonde highlights represent a fresh start, a way of separating this year's Australian Open from last year's title run. Or maybe Gauff just wanted to try something new, and everyone else is reading way too much into it. There's also the broader question of what this says about how people evaluate women's tennis players. Gauff has won 2 Grand Slams, reached multiple finals, and is clearly one of the best players in the world right now. But somehow, there's always this hesitation to fully embrace her as the face of women's tennis or the favorite for future dominance. Meanwhile, players with similar or sometimes even lesser achievements get more benefit of the doubt. It's a pattern that shows up over and over again in sports coverage and analysis. The proven comment from Mashai is particularly strange because Gauff has literally proven she can win Grand Slams. She won the US Open in 2023. She just won the Australian Open. What more proof does someone need? Świątek has more slams overall, but most of them are from the French Open, where the clay court heavily favors her playing style. Gauff has won on 2 different surfaces now, showing versatility that Świątek is still working to match outside of Roland Garros. Let's also talk about the prediction that Świątek will be #1 before May. That's a very specific timeline, and it puts a lot of pressure on Świątek to perform immediately in the early part of the season. The Australian Open happens in January, and if Gauff defends her title there, she's going to shoot up in the rankings. The next few months include tournaments in the Middle East, and then the spring clay season leading up to the French Open. Maxi is basically saying Świątek will dominate all of that to the point where she overtakes whoever is #1 at the start of the year. That's a huge claim. Aryna Sabalenka, who's been #1 recently and is another player who could dominate 2026, probably feels some type of way about not even being mentioned in Machi's prediction. She's won multiple Australian Opens, has been incredibly consistent, and has the kind of power game that can blow anyone off the court. But Massey didn't include her in his list of contenders, which is its own form of disrespect. At least Gauff got mentioned before being passed over. Sabalenka didn't even make the cut, apparently. The reality is that predicting who will dominate women's tennis in 2026 is actually really difficult. The sport is incredibly competitive right now, with multiple players capable of winning any given tournament. Gauff, Świątek, Sabalenka, and even emerging players like Andreeva all have legitimate cases for why they could be the one to separate from the pack. Making a definitive prediction requires either incredible insight or incredible confidence, and Maxi seems to have chosen the latter. What's going to be fascinating is watching how this plays out over the next few months. If Gauff starts the year strong and defends her Australian Open title, Maxi's prediction immediately looks shaky. If Świątek struggles in Australia, but then dominates the clay season, maybe his timeline works out. But if Gauff continues to win big tournaments and Świątek doesn't reach #1 before May, Maxi is going to have to eat a massive serving of humble pie, while tennis fans everywhere remind him of his bold proclamation. The other factor nobody's really talking about is injuries and form fluctuations. Tennis is a sport where one injury can derail an entire season. One loss of confidence can turn a dominant player into someone struggling to win matches. Maxi's prediction assumes Świątek will stay healthy and in form, while everyone else either stays stagnant or declines. That's a lot of assumptions for a sport as unpredictable as tennis. Gauff, for her part, probably doesn't care what Rick Massey thinks. She's got her own team, her own goals, and a Grand Slam trophy that she won just recently. If anything, this kind of public doubt might actually fuel her to prove people wrong, which is when she tends to play her best tennis anyway. Athletes love using criticism as motivation, and Massey just handed her some premium bulletin board material. The most likely scenario is that 2026 ends up being a year where multiple players have their moments of dominance. Gauff might win some big tournaments. Świątek might win others. Sabalenka will probably grab a few titles too. And at the end of the year, we'll look back at Massey's prediction and either praise his foresight or laugh at how wrong he was. Given how competitive women's tennis is right now, the latter seems more probable. One thing's for sure, though. Rick Massey created way more drama with this prediction than he probably intended. What could have been a simple, "I think Świątek will have a great year," turned into, "I'm publicly choosing Świątek over the defending Australian Open champion." And in the age of social media, where every take gets preserved forever and thrown back at you the moment it ages poorly, that's a risky move. The instant regret might not have hit yet, but it's coming. It's definitely coming. Rick Massey's bold prediction about Iga Świątek dominating over Coco Gauff has set up one of the most interesting storylines for 2026 tennis. Whether he ends up looking like a genius or just another person who underestimated Gauff remains to be seen. If you want more tennis drama and analysis, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.